Okay, so would like to graph y equals sine x for the angle to be between negative 2 pi to positive 2 pi. So it's going to be around the unit circle. Now let's look at the values that we have here. So around the unit circle, the first value we're going to pick is really, if we go this way, we go positive way, or counterclockwise, it's going to be positive. So the first value is 0. So we're going to pick 0, and then the second one is going to be pi over 2. All right, we're going to continue to go, and the next value is going to be pi. And right here is going to be 3 pi over 2. And finally, when we come back, we're going to have 2 pi. Okay, now, let's say, let's find out the sine values. Remember that unit circle, we have the, this is what we're going to have. This is going to happen. We have x, y. So the x is the cosine. And y is really the sine of the angle. So, for example, for the 0 degrees, the sine of 0 is going to be simply 0. The sine of pi over 2 is 1. And finally, the sine of pi is going to be 0. 3 pi over 2 is going to be negative 1. So we take all the y coordinates, and for 2 pi, right here is 2 pi, sine is going to be 0. Sine of 2 pi and 0 degrees exactly the same thing. Now, so let's pick some negative values, and I'm going to use the ink one, red one. So what happens is, okay, so it's really simple. We go this way right now. We go clockwise. So this would be negative pi over 2. And this would be negative pi. And this will be negative 3 pi over 2. And finally, when we come back, that's going to be negative 2 pi. So we travel this way for the negative angles. And let's pick the values. So all you have to do is you can say negative pi over 2, and then we're going to go right here is negative pi, and negative 3 pi over 2, and finally we have negative 2 pi. Now, how are we going to find the values for the sine? Remember, sine is the y coordinates. So sine of negative pi over 2 is negative 1. Sine of negative pi is 0. And sine of negative 3 pi over 2 is 1. And sine of negative 2 pi is simply 0. Now, once you do this, all you have to do is draw your x and y axis, and you're done with it, okay? So let's do that. I'm going to draw right here my x axis, and I'm going to label them to make our graph looks really good. So this is my x axis, and I have my y-axis all the time, depending on what they're asking you. So in this case, we are simply asked between negative 2 pi to positive 2 pi. So I have 4 values on the right side. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 4 values on the left side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we look at our y-axis. I would label my y-axis R2, but I just look at the amplitude. Here's 1, so I only have to go 1 up and 1 down. That's all I need, negative 1 and 1. So if you look at your graph, it's going to be between negative 1. That's going to be your min line, the minimum, okay? And that is going to be your max line. The highest point is going to be your max. The graph will never go higher than the max and never lower than the min. And then the middle line is really y equals 0. That's your midline. This is our midline. So important. Our midline in this case is really y equals 0. Okay, but anyway, let's get back to graph of the sine function. So we look at it, when it's 0, it's 0. So let me get a different ink for graphing it. Let me see what's my favorite one. I'll go with the green again. So when it's 0, it's 0. And then when it's pi, now I should have labeled it. I told you first. So put 0 on the scales. You put the x scales, which is really pi over 2. And then the next one is pi, so you put pi. And then 3 pi over 2. And finally we have 2 pi, okay? 2 pi. And the left side, all you have to do is you could label the left side. All you have to do is change the values of the pi from positive to negative. So negative pi over 2, negative pi, negative 3 pi over 2, and negative 2 pi. So now sine of 0 is 0 because 0 is 0. And then when it's pi over 2 is 1. So it's going to be right here. And then it's pi is 0. And then 3 pi over 2. 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. So that's negative 1. Whoops. Okay, so when it's 3 pi over 2. When it's 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. And it's 2 pi is 0. And you get, all you have to do is connect them. Make sure that you don't draw a straight line. That's a nice graph, okay? That's what we got. Now we got to do the left side. Now you can see that when it's negative pi over 2, it's negative 1. So then the graph goes down. And then when it's negative pi, it's 0. It's 0. So we're going to go back here. And 3 pi over 2 is 1. 3 pi over 2 is 1. So 3 pi over 2 is 1. And we connect that. And finally, negative 2 pi is 0. So negative 2 pi is 0. So you got the graph of the function up to 2 periods from negative 2 pi to positive 2 pi. And that's it. I hope this helped.